We're going to your phone calls in about 7 minutes. 1-800-259-9231. Bob Chapman, for those that don't know, we have a lot of new listeners every minute tuning in, getting so many new AM and FM affiliates. Bob helped publish and write the book, None Dare Call It Conspiracy. I talked to all the old-timers, and Bob Chapman was right there fighting them the entire time for almost 50 years. And so he can really, and he's been in high levels of business, so he knows a lot of these people, and he knows their histories. So take your time talking. I mean, Madeleine Albright's dad in Czechoslovakia, it was the famous Soviet that robbed over 1 million people. When the Nazis came, they had to run to Serbia. It came out on the news. She had all that Holocaust art in her house that was taken. That was on 60 Minutes. People noticed Holocaust, famous paintings behind her. She admitted it and said, I'm keeping it, basically go to hell. Soros, of course, worked for the Nazis. Others worked for the Soviets, the Gores. I mean, they work for killer thugs. It's who they are. Then you have John Shalikashvili, the former chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff. His dad was the head Nazi general for the Polish turncoat that worked for the Nazis in Poland. I mean, it's only a few families. And these people know how to take over governments, have coups, and that's what their global carbon tax is. So, Bob Chapman, you've got the floor. Recap your George Soros story, the global taxes, what they're doing to the third world, Arm & Hammer, all of it. Bob Chapman, tell us.
Well, George Soros, as I said, had been convicted twice of stock fraud. And this is in recent times. This is not 30 or 40 years ago. And he was the one who was given the inside information in the early 1990s by the royal family that the pound was going to break away from the European currencies, and the result would be that the pound would fall in value. And so George shorted the pound and made billions and billions of dollars. These people don't make money because they're extra smart. They all have inside information, and that's a very good example of it. And in the United States today, Warren Buffett's another one. He's brought around like the Grand Poobah and the all-knowing one, when in fact most of his deals are either in collaboration with the U.S. government or directly with the U.S. government. The reason that he just recently bought the railroad was to get carbon credits so that he could engage in the carbon trading. And incidentally, in Europe, they're already doing carbon trading, and they have a big scandal going on about how the carbon rates are all fixed and everybody's getting ripped off, and it'll be in tomorrow's issue of the Forecaster. But getting back to Soros, he also, and when these people die, people like Soros, their wealth is then turned over to the Illuminati. And I've seen it happen time and time again. And so they got a goodwill. They're here. They do what they're supposed to do. And they live powerful and luxurious lives. Soros used a good part of his money to foment these revolutions in all these Eastern European countries. The Pink Revolution, the Blue Revolution, whatever they were called. And that was his money doing that. And he also has been the biggest proponent for the legal use of marijuana. He's been pushing it for some years. As far as Albright's concerned, yes, her father was a first-class crook, but he's one of the families. And it was interesting that probably about 10 years ago, she just discovered that she was Jewish. And so that was no revelation because she knew from the beginning. And where did they get all of the art wealth that they had? They took it all from Jewish people. And so she and her father, just like the Gores and the Soroses and others, have gleaned this tremendous amount of wealth by doing exactly what the Illuminists want them to do, whether it's within the communist structure, the fascist structure, the socialist structure, etc. That they have their mission, they're told what to do, and they get their orders and training and information from foundations and think tanks which are funded by these people. And so the way I envision it, they say, look, here's the syllabus. You study it. This is what you've got to do. And for that, you'll get, $80 billion or whatever the figure is. And this is the way this thing works. And it worms its way all over the world into companies and governments and banking, and not everybody in banking and in the brokerage industry or the insurance industry or in manufacturing or whatever throughout the world are involved in this. There's a lot of good people out there, and a lot of people who are invited to join groups like the Council on Foreign Relations and the Group of 30 and the Group of 300 and the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderbergers and on and on and on. Some of them get out, but not many. I mean, the power and the money is so fabulous that these people can't help themselves. And so going back to Hamma's father was a high official in the Communist Party in the United States. It wasn't called that. Eventually he was called a communist. Hammer always said that he wasn't a communist, and of course he was. And there's a number of books on his history, and he had this large oil concession in Libya, and he got that by paying off for it, which is illegal, of course. The same thing that Halliburton just got caught doing. I mean, you got to understand that these people are all in this together, and they buy the politicians in every country. They create revolutions. They create wars. They, like America, they've never seen a dictator that they didn't like. Look at the school that they had at Fort Benning.
Still there under a new name. But, Bob, that's a great point you make, that look at how our government sets up dictatorships all over the world. Of course they're getting rid of Northcom. Of course they're putting police on the street. The federal government today financed a paper by Rand to create a new U.S. Army police force. Now, we know they're going to put regular Army on the streets and are already doing it, but now they're announcing, no, we're going to have federal U.S. Army troops, and they're just going to patrol America, and they're going to write tickets and everything. I mean, that's total Guatemala, total Stalin Russia. I mean, that's grade A certified. It's just totally illegitimate criminal government. And you say, well, the military will stand up. And I know the military are really tuning in droves. They're waking up. They know previously they were taught this was bad. Now they're being told it's good, but they're having Marine Corps, Army, National Guard, where they run checkpoints in Tennessee, California, Texas, Iowa. They do gun confiscation drills. It's now in the paper. And the troops go, yeah, I'm out here running checkpoints for drunks. I mean, what's wrong with stopping drunks just to set the precedent? And so they're certainly trying to do this and using staged terror attacks to sell it. And conservatives have been sold, well, if it's anti-terror, I'm for it. But conservatives need to know, we got the MIAC report from the police. We released it. We got the Homeland Security report. I got it. I released it. People couldn't believe it was real for 2 days until the feds admitted, yes, Jones shouldn't have that. And I had the feds calling up saying, who gave that to you? And I said, go take a hike, buddy. It's still America. And it said, Homeland Security is for the American people, gun owners, veterans, conservatives, libertarians, people that protest the Fed. We always knew it was for us because we're the real Americans. We're the good guys. Homeland Security is to stop the good guys. Bob Chapman.
Well, you're absolutely right, and that's the federalization process. And that will sweep through all of the police departments and eventually through all the state agencies. This is monstrous what's going on. And, the American people who are listening to this, you have got to tell other people about this. You have to talk about it in all the meetings that you're having politically at the lower levels in the state and cities and the towns. And you have to continually barrage all the congressmen, all the senators, and tell them you don't want them to do this and don't want them to do that. It's the only legal avenue open to you. And if you can, you should go with these groups that meet and go to Washington. What was it, 2 million people tea parties, other kinds of groups all over the country. If you don't do it, you're going to end up in an internment camp.
And by the way, Bob, you were in Army intelligence in Europe against the Soviets. You've lived in Paris. You've lived in South Africa. You've lived and did a lot of work in Black Ops. And that's how you discovered the New World Order. People that study history like you and I, who spend all our time researching this, and you've lived it, know what type of tyranny we're dealing with. It's not a boss hog. It's not a corruption. It's not a good old boy thing. It is a scientific, focused, final solution to bring in an invincible scientific dictatorship. This is their own statements. A planetary regime, the likes of which we've never seen. People need to know this is the darkest, most wicked form of tyranny you can imagine.